I'm the storyteller, and my stories must be told. I have many stories, tales for both the young and old. I have many voices to describe many places. Many names have I, and many faces. In Russia I am Ivan, in Sweden I am Jan. In Germany I'm Johann, in America I'm John. From my many travels I have gathered these tales to teach you good sense when all else fails. Sometimes there are tears, sometimes there is laughter, but always are happily ever after.
Long ago and far away in a country covered with forests, there once lived a poor woodcutter called Mikhail. This poor man lived a terrible life, for he was married to a shrew of a woman who never gave him a moment's peace. Day in, day out, she was on at him for being so poor. She wondered why she had ever married him, he was such a lazy good-for-nothing. And privately, Mikhail devoutly wished that he had never married her. That woman's tongue was as sharp as a razor. Although Mikhail did in truth work very hard, woodcutting was not a very profitable business. He had to sell his day's labours for just a few pence, happy to take whatever was offered. And the odds were that his wife would relieve him of every coin that he did manage to earn. It was no use trying to hide even a copper from her. She knew exactly how much he had been paid and would demand every last small coin. "I'll watch you every minute," she promised the hapless Mikhail. "I know what you're up to. You want to go drinking with your ne'er-do-well friends." At the end of a hard day's work, most men can look forward to a tasty meal to help set them up, but not Mikhail. His wife's cooking was as unpalatable as her tongue was sharp. The poor man didn't even have the satisfaction of a decent supper. "How can I escape this appalling woman?" he would cry in despair. "Do I have to endure her for the rest of my life?" At last he decided the only way he could escape was to try and hide some of the money he was paid for his wood, so that he would be able to look for work in another village. But his wife seemed to have eyes in the back of her head. She watched him like a hawk. Mikhail thought he had successfully hidden a few coins and began daydreaming of his freedom. To his great dismay, he had not succeeded. And what was worse, the fact that she caught him hiding money from her put her in a dreadful rage. First, she took the coins for herself. She didn't just confine herself to scolding him, she actually set about him with one of his own pieces of wood. Mikhail couldn't stand it any longer. One morning he decided he would just saddle up the donkey and leave. such luck. He went off on his donkey. His wife was soon after him on hers, keeping him well in sight. When he realized that there was no escape from her, he felt the best thing he could do was pretend he had merely ridden into the woods to cut down some of the older trees. Pretending he hadn't seen his wife, he examined one tree, then another, all the time watching that woman from the corner of his eye, hoping she would return home. But she, for her part, just hid behind some bushes so she could observe everything he did. Mikhail set about felling a tree, hoping against hope his wife would think he was busily employed and quietly go home. But she was too sharp for that. She was quite determined not to let him out of sight for a minute, even if it meant watching him all day. She crept from bush to bush, quiet as a mouse, to keep him in view all the time, quite unaware that Mikhail could see her as clearly as she could see him. Little did she know, as she crept nearer and nearer, that she was now in some danger, for the dense bushes hid a deep, disused well. Mikhail knew the danger she was courting, but just as he started to warn her, she started screaming at him, and she fell straight down into the well. Although Mikhail had mixed emotions, he decided that a night down in the well would probably cool her off. When it was time to go, he rode home with a very light heart. He cooked himself the most delicious meal that evening, which was all the more tasty because he could enjoy it in peace. No nagging, no scolding, no shouting. What bliss! For the first time in years, he enjoyed a restful evening at home. The next morning, however, he felt that his wife had been punished enough, and he must, out of all humanity, go and rescue her. Although anticipating an end to his short period of happiness, he did all the morning chores like washing up and feeding the animals. Then, with a heavy heart, he saddled up his little donkey and set off for the woods and the disused well. It must be admitted he did it with great reluctance, but however dreadful she was, he really couldn't leave his wife abandoned. He felt that the lovely morning had lost much of its savour as the donkey slowly clip-clopped through the wood until they came to the well. He shouted down into the inky depths again and again, but no reply. He tried peering down into the water, but could see nothing. Well, even if she can't talk, she should be able to hold the rope, he thought, and threw it down into the well, crying, "Hold the rope! "Hold the rope." Sure enough, there was a pull on the rope. A very strong pull indeed. Was his wife that strong, Mikhail thought in astonishment, as he dragged it up. But to his surprise, no wife appeared, but a funny little devil. "Thank all the devils you've rescued me from a nagging witch," the little man cried. The devil began explaining. "In the next village, the mayor has a beautiful daughter. If you do as I say, you will become a very wealthy man. That will be your reward for rescuing me from the longest, most painful night of my life. A hideous witch fell on top of me, and without a moment's peace screeched all night long, complaining of everyone and everything. Now, this mayor's daughter you will meet will become sick of a mysterious ailment, although she was perfectly well even an hour before. 1 minute blooming with health, the next unable to eat or drink. Without an obvious cause of her illness, there will be no obvious cure. Her loving father will put her to bed and tend her and nurse her and do everything he can to make her well, but to no avail. And nobody will be able to diagnose the mysterious ailment that has overcome the beautiful girl. Obviously, it must be the work of the devil. A great sorrow will pervade the whole village. Naturally, everyone will have their own opinion as to what has caused this strange malady. Nobody will understand why the young girl has been bewitched. The wisest doctor in the whole land will be summoned, but nothing will be able to be done. The poor girl will remain in the thrall of this mysterious enchantment which will baffle the finest minds. Mikhail listened fascinated while the little devil continued. Even the holy priest cannot exorcise the devil that possesses her. His prayers and her father's are powerless. Nothing, it seems, can cure her. You, my friend, as a reward for rescuing me from that horrible woman, you will cure this beautiful girl. How can I do that? Mikhail gasped. I'm just a poor woodcutter. The little devil handed him 3 wooden tablets, intricately carved, and told him to wet them and to place each one on the girl's brow and cheeks. He explained that these tablets contained great power that would overcome the devil's spell. He would be richly rewarded, just as a thank you for saving the devil from that awful witch. Mikhail was so entranced by this story that all thought of his wife was completely forgotten. Without further ado, he mounted his little donkey and set off for the enchanted beauty's village, still wondering at the devil's extraordinary tale. But having lived with his wife for so many years, he could well understand that the devil couldn't abide her even for a few hours. When he arrived at the village, he heard the mayor's servant proclaiming to one and all that whoever cured the daughter of her malady would be richly rewarded. Mikhail was at once directed to the mayor's fine house, where he found a great multitude of people anxiously congregating outside to hear any fresh news. Timidly, he knocked on the door and told the maid he had come to cure the daughter of the house. "I'll call the master," she said abruptly, not really believing this poor, humble-looking man. When the mayor appeared, Mikhail insisted firmly, "I can cure your daughter." "Then enter, enter," the man urged, and quickly led Mikhail to his daughter's sickbed. Pale and listless though the girl was, the woodcutter could see her beauty through it all, and this made him even more determined to cure her. As the devil had instructed, Mikhail asked for a bowl of water to be brought. Then he took the strange tablets from his pocket and doused them thoroughly in the water. He placed one on the girl's forehead and held the other two firmly on each cheek while he said a quiet prayer to himself. After a pause, he slowly removed them, and as he did so, he felt a strange breeze caress him. Looking at the window, he saw the little devil perched on the frame, and then pop! He was gone. Mikhail knew then that the girl would be cured. And just at that moment, colour began to flood her cheeks. She opened her eyes and began to move and smile. In next to no time, she was well enough to rise from her bed. Her overjoyed father presented her to all the villagers, praying for her recovery. The grateful man couldn't do too much for the poor woodcutter who had cured his daughter so miraculously. The headman ordered that a great feast be held in honour of this clever man, and announced in front of all the village that he would reward Mikhail with whatever he asked. But as for his daughter, she had already given all her love to the man who had cured her. Mikhail felt he had never been so happy before. Certainly the headman's wealth and respect was pleasant, but his daughter's adoration was much, much better. Mikhail didn't spare a thought for his wife, but she hadn't done yet. She had managed to climb out of the well, cursing and dripping, and was in a filthy temper. Being drenched to the bone was bad enough. Having to share the well with that saucy little devil was even worse. She was determined to vent her anger on someone, preferably Mikhail, in no uncertain terms. The moment she heard of his good fortune, she lost no time in hurrying to the village to demand her due from him. "How dare you do this to me?" she began shrieking at him, but was abruptly interrupted. Mikhail's reputation as a miracle worker had spread far and wide, and he was urgently summoned to attend to a girl in a neighbouring village who had mysteriously sickened. When he arrived at her threshold, he found the little devil standing there, arms akimbo to warn him off. "This girl is mine!" the little man screamed. "Go away! Go away! You've had your reward!" Well, Mikhail knew that while he might be powerless, there was one person of whom the devil was very afraid. So while the poor girl languished with her strange illness, the woodcutter hurried back to his home, where his wife was impatiently waiting for her share, and his, of the reward. "Well, wife," he told her, "I have a plan that will make you richer than you ever dreamed of. You must listen to me carefully, for this is not easy, but if you do as I say, you will become the wealthiest woman in the country. You have yelled at me and berated me from the first day of our marriage." The poor woodcutter speaking so. His wife couldn't take him seriously, but he continued, "Now, for the first time, you will have no reason to ever bother me again. The daughter of the rich man in the next village has sickened mysteriously. Only I know how to cure her, and I shall tell you, as a reward for being my wife, what should be done." He showed her the 3 strange tablets the devil had given him, and explained to her how they should be used, one placed on the girl's forehead, one on each cheek. His wife needed a lot of convincing that he wasn't lying to her, but by dint of repeating it again and again, and by emphasizing the rich rewards she would be given, Mikhail at last, after some difficulty, managed to persuade his wife he was telling the truth. The thought of the reward was too much for her. He showed her the gold pieces he had received for performing the same cure. He told his wife the time had come for her to stop doubting him and to do as she was told. She was a greedy woman who would do anything for money. She set off for the sick girl's home full of high hopes until she saw that horrid little devil barring her way. "I'll give you what for, trying to stop me making some money, eh? I'll show you." The little devil didn't stay for more. Off he scurried with the shrew in hot pursuit. The moment he vanished, the young girl, of course, felt immediately better. As for the devil and the woodcutter's wife, they were never seen again. Although some quick-eyed folk did sometimes see the devil running through the wood for all he was worth, with a furious-looking woman chasing after him. As for Mikhail, he was at last able to marry someone who loved him and who would never nag or scold. They were married in great pomp and ceremony and lived happily ever after.